Patrick Kun, Patrick Kun, Patrick Kun.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Discourse in Magic. This episode was really exciting because it was with Patrick Kun.
Yeah, he talks a lot about his time working with David Copperfield and Calen Morelli and what it's like to be a magic consultant working with a team of magicians. He also talks about his time in design school and how that affects his magic and the way he designs his effects, and also how his study of magic has affected his view on design and other art forms.
And he gets to tell us a little bit about his videos, his YouTube videos, and his Valentine's Day series, which has grown to be something quite amazing. So grab a listen, let us know what you think.
Grab a hold
of the listen and listen on in. And let us know what you think of episode 5 of Discourse in Magic with Patrick Kun. Hello everybody and welcome to Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah and I am here with Tyler.
How's it going, everybody?
And we have a very, very special guest today that we're really excited about. We have Patrick Kun.
Thank you so much for being here, Patrick.
Thanks for having me here.
Very excited. So one of the ways that we start every episode is we ask magicians how they first got into magic and how they decided that magic was something that they were going to pursue a little bit longer. So do you have a story?
I started magic when I was about maybe like 14 years old, and my friend was giving me like a VHS tape. I think it's called Jaw Droppers, I think. And there's a lot of like Jeff McBride stuff and that Michael Amar, EC Miracle Card Magic stuff. So yeah, I mean that just kind of got me interested in magic, and then
that's an amazing place to start. Mm-hmm. Those are super
great
foundations. Normally,
a lot of great stuff, and which I think like now today, I think newer generation of magicians don't really get to really learn from the ground up like what we did before. Although I can say that I didn't start magic from a book, but I did do a lot of research on magic, and I mean those kind of magic effects or DVD are just kind of seem to kind of disappear in our new generation. Seems like.
Right. But what was it about the classic magic that sort of drew you towards this art form? Because it is a weird hobby to sort of dedicate yourself to.
I think you just see a little bit more of the showmanship of the magician. Like every trick on a DVD, even though they're not like geared too much towards street magic, it's a lot of classic magic that you actually get to study all the fundamental,
the whole performance.
Yeah, and then you get to see them perform for live people. And I think magic now is you just see a lot of, I guess social media now is such a huge thing, and
it's more about the magic moment that's only that 5 seconds of a 15-second clip as opposed to sort of the idea of designing a whole stage show or designing the atmosphere of
or even just designing like a simple trick with a purpose and like a beginning and a middle and end. Like when you're stuck on Instagram or you're trying to do something on like a Facebook video, like you might be limited to a different format.
It is a completely different platform, to do magic too. And I mean, I myself do social media magic too, but I think to a certain extent you gotta keep them separate. Whether those are good visual eye candy stuff that you can help maybe help boost your career or like try to get more attention from people. But I think overall you should still focus on what you could actually do live to people.
Yeah, ultimately once you're getting booked.
Mm-hmm. You were mentioning that you were in school for design, and that's sort of what drew you towards the creative side of magic. So, being someone who does think that you need to perform and wants to be performing more magic, how is your history with design sort of A, helped, and B, harmed your ability to get out there and do real work?
Yeah, I think, growing up in an Asian family, of course, my parents wanted me to be like an engineer or doctor, so magic was not something they were thinking of having me doing for a living. So I guess in the back of my mind, I've never really was going to pursue magic full time. And so design was going to be my job until I was speaking with Calen and Chris Kenner, and I had a great, amazing opportunity to work with David Copperfield in Las Vegas. So that was, for me, it was a life changer for me. And if I didn't have that, I don't think I would ever be doing this much magic and be around, so many talented people here in Las Vegas. So I think that just kind of helped shift my career more on the creative side. I was brought on the team mainly for doing some design work for David, and also along with some illusion design. So I think, being able to use my design background in graphic design and video stuff helps a lot, and it kind of blend in with the magic world,
how to frame a setting.
So that's interesting that you got into some an amazing opportunity in the magic world through design, and not through magic. I mean, through designing the illusions and through the rest of the design, which is interesting because that's I guess a different method. Was that proactive in terms of you thought that it might help leverage your career a little bit, or it sort of was a fluke that you were interested in magic and design, and then this opportunity came about and the whole thing sort of unfolded?
Yeah, I think it was just the right time, the right place. I mean, I never imagined that I'll ever be doing this, But since I love magic already, I started as a graphic designer, and I love video graphic and motion design stuff too, but I didn't know how to do any of those. And obviously as a magician, we all want to have a great video of yourself performing. You want that cool videos, and you want those cool music and titles and stuff, and everybody else, So that kind of got me to studying in video, and also studying in graphic design and motion graphics. So I guess it kind of helps, having a little bit of background before,
Because your editing and your design of your videos are top notch.
Thank you.
It's really impressive to see your work. I think that's another really interesting thing, is that it sort of is a testament to what this project is about, and saying that there is more avenues outside of just the actual magic part to magic, because what
definitely
made you a successful magician was your study of design, right? It shows that there's a lot more elements than people generally think about.
One thing I realized, there are many ways to make a living doing magic. There's people who would just perform regularly, doing gigs as a performer, and that's one thing. And there's also people who would, create magic for the community, and that's another side of magic. And
I think this is the first time that we've been able to make a living as creators of magic and not performers of magic.
Which I understand, sometimes not. I like to always compare magic when I talk to people with songwriter and a singer. I can guarantee every songwriter always want to be a performer. They want to be a famous singer. But sometimes, it's just not for them. Some people are just better at one thing, and some people are just better at the other thing. So, I mean, one thing that I noticed, people who perform all the time, and as a professional gig, you would usually realize that their creative side is not as good as certain people. And most people who are really, really creative, they aren't as good as a performer as the other. And that could also be a lack of practice, because we do one side more than the other.
It's really interesting that there's now an internal market for creative magic, where it's maybe even the effect isn't. I mean, it's an old effect that's been done 100 times that just is a slightly different handling, but the method is so clever that it's I have to learn it and I have to practice it just because I'm a move monkey and I got to know the new clip shift or whatever it is.
Yeah,
right?
So what is... I know this is going to be obviously a loaded question, but what's the recipe to an awesome online video? Some of your... I looking through again some of your top YouTube videos, and they are absolutely amazing, start to finish. They're engaging, and especially the ones that are, directed a little bit more to the public eye. The ones that aren't about specific tricks, but
like
the Valentine's Day
or
the stuff for the Post.
The New York Post was
yeah.
amazing.
So what's the key? How do you get somebody interested in what you're doing for a camera? I mean, like right now, like on Instagram, you see a lot of people doing a lot of videos of a deck of cards in their crotch, some cardistry at eye level, and which is interesting, but it's going to be hard to get the interest of the public.
Yes.
So how do you create a magic video that gets a broader type of interest?
Yeah, so that's one thing that I've kind of been struggling with, because the style of magic that I started with was more of like a sleight of hand magic, which sleight of hand magic is really geared towards only magicians. Only magician really cares. And I try to think, I try to look at my YouTube channel overall. I'm just like, laymen won't understand any of these videos that I'm putting up, like it looks cool for a magician, but like laymen could care less of all the card stuff, all the card stuff.
Yeah, they don't understand that your hands really didn't move that much and something magical happened. They don't understand that that's different than when your hands are moving a lot, right? It's not so their understanding isn't as refined.
So I think in their perspective, card trick is a card trick, They all look the same.
Yeah,
eventually you find,
especially even if the thumbnail for the video is a card trick, like a magician that's like, oh, let's see exactly what like ace routine this is or something, but someone else is like, what do you mean there's like 30 tricks and it's all the same cards on the same table on the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So for me, especially having design as a background, I like things to look nice at least, so I tend to put a little more time onto trying to make videos, make sure the lighting is good, make sure the quality is good, trying to pick good music. So I think those are all important. And I think today now, the fact that we can upload anything instantly, that, kind of makes people just want to share whatever they just got, And
right. It's like it's a tool that allows us to share extremely quickly and extremely well, but it also allows us to put out very mediocre content.
Exactly. And I mean, I've seen a lot of, at least on my Instagram videos, I think Instagram for me is a very good exercise for me to just kind of keep my mind going, and just kind of you can kind of see like different kind of style videos or pictures or different kind of posts I post on Instagram. You can see different amount of likes, and those kind of give me a good idea of what people like and what people don't like. And recently, I just try to gear it a little bit more towards on something that everybody can enjoy. If you look at my Instagram stuff, you will see that I would only do card trick once in a while. I'll always try to find something different, something new, something's more relatable.
Yeah, you do a lot of stuff with like everyday objects is sort of like a classic term, but I mean, like a lot of stuff with bills, a lot of stuff. I like your vending machine stuff that you do. A lot of things that are more relatable, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think also the style of magic have developed a lot too in the past years, being around a lot of talented people like Blake and Calen, around David Copperfield and all the other people that I have worked with, and it makes you think a little more outside of card tricks. I mean, I still love practicing, doing all the crazy slides, but now, if I could make gimmick on a certain thing and make it look more organic, then I think
perfect. Yeah.
I think that's a much.
It's about
better
creating
way
the
to
strongest.
Go. Yeah.
Magic.
I think focusing more on the effect rather than the method is also a key too. Because a lot of people just enjoy so much on the method they came up with, where they don't really care much about how it impact on people. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about caring about the effect as a whole, but structuring yourself towards online? Like when you're online, it's a little bit different. You more have to craft like a story, in a video rather than like an effect, or maybe not. I don't know. Like at least on Instagram videos, like in 15 seconds. I think now Instagram's allowing a little bit more time, but you're really limited in terms of crafting your effect. So how do you like change an effect that you would have in person for something online, or do you think that they're completely different and you should, create magic that's directed only for online and then create magic that's directed for in person?
Yeah, I think magic can be performed in different media, and I don't think they don't all have to be the same kind of style. Obviously, people can take more advantage when you're being filmed on camera, or in a certain situation there's more advantage on certain things, but we shouldn't really just use it all the time. And yeah, sometimes I could say that some of the tricks works better for the certain angle for the camera. Some tricks works better live.
How do you feel about the ethics of marketing material? Like, not just releasing content that is, here, watch this video, and you think, oh my god, that guy's so great, but he could never actually do that in person.
Yeah.
But actually being like, here, buy my effect that looks so amazing in this video, but when you get it, you can only do it from a third of the angles you think you can. Whereas, where you go to a magic store, you see the effect performed right in front of you, and you know exactly what it looks like in real time.
Yeah, like I said, people nowadays just like to make something that looks good, and they just sell it. I could guarantee that I could say that all my stuff that I've released at least took me at least 2-3 years to develop them, and all my Instagram stuff, I've never released any of them. Unless I feel like they're like great, then I'll put it out. But I think for Instagram posts, it's a good exercise for me just to kind of craft some idea and then just kind of put it out there. But also you have to make sure that it looks at least decent. You don't want to share like a half idea out on a public.
Yeah, it's like really important. Like if you have like it's the power of social media, but also when people type in your name, whether it's in Google or Instagram or YouTube, like you need to make sure that exactly what comes up is exactly the sort of thing that you want them to see and feel. And
yeah,
I think it's a good example of putting out mediocre content is I'm about to say his name, and that's not who I'm talking about. I think Calen Morelli puts out amazing content, but with his project 365, he was creating new tricks every day, and awesome. And they were all very worthy of putting online. But there's a lot of magicians I know that are trying to mimic a Project 365, even mimic a creative Project 365 where you're creating new magic. And it's just like, for the first 10 days, I'm interested in what you're doing. And then eventually it's like, wow, you are running out of stuff. And you're just doing the cheesiest, worst magic because you committed to this project you weren't prepared for. So I think that, you really need to be aware of the undertaking of having an online presence, because you need to have everything you put out be perfect.
I think, people... It's good to kind of set kind of like a deadline, kind of pressure. And sometimes we kind of need that to give us more creativity. But you got to also balance too what laymen are seeing. You don't want people to see the process of your magic creation. Like that just kind of help ruins the magic.
It's a good point.
I think most of the consumer now for magicians that buy stuff from big online magic shop, I can say that, I don't know, maybe 67, at least 70% are not professional magicians. And I hope, there are a lot of great contents out there, even though some of them may look better on camera, but I just hope that, I think it's okay to buy stuff like that and to learn them, but not to only do that kind of stuff for a camera. I think magic should be performed for people.
Do you feel much more comfortable performing for a camera? Is it like is the struggle of creating a magic moment in person vastly different for you than creating one on a camera, like in your own experience?
You mean like to create a trick and like do it for camera, and create a trick and do it to people?
Yeah, sort of like when you're shaping an effect and catering towards a camera or catering towards people, which one do you struggle with more, and which one actually like making it happen? Like, A, coming up with what the method and effect will be, and B, performing it for either the camera or the audience member.
It's there's pro and cons on both sides, and in the past that I've worked on TV magic, tricks would always work to real people. But camera always have a different eye on how it's being how to capture the magic stuff. So you got like understanding You know, like sometimes I think people don't give enough credit for TV magicians. There's actually a lot of work that goes in behind the scene, and people just think, oh, you can just cut this and you can just add this and frame this. There's so much work, because not only you have to make sure that people are seeing what they're seeing, you have to make sure that people at home are seeing the same thing that people there are seeing. You know, like you can't you can't just cut a different scene and hide, you know, and do a different tricks and cut to a different reactions. Like, I mean, I'm sure some TV show does that, but at least the TV shows that I work with in UK aren't like that at all, you know. So,
yeah. What are some of your you know, like any sort of crazy stories, any sort of amazing experiences you've had working in on TV magic and creating, being sort of a consultant for a magic project? Because that's something I've never done. Is I've never, you know, sat in the background. I've always either been the magician or just been having a conversation. Right?
Yeah.
It's never been a
so
job.
I think the hardest thing for doing consulting, and some people just think you're just making ideas up. You know, it's a lot of work. Like this position, you creating magic, you help writing the show, you help picking the right magic for the right scene, and then not only that, you have to build the products. You have to make sure every trick didn't flash. You have to make sure it is being set up properly on a certain scene. So I think for, you know, in the past I work with work with animals and chemical, and I think those two are like the hardest thing. You know, like we did one trick that relies on a chemical reaction. And man, like we did not sleep for a night because it just keep reacting, and you know we try to stabilize it. Like any kind of like bump into the glass, the chemical just react, and just like, oh, that takes like 2 hours to redo another one. So yeah, any magic, and a lot of time with TV magic, most of the materials they're created, we don't have that much time to R&D it. You know, like we always have to try to create new stuff, and TV people always want new stuff all the time. You obviously don't want to do stuff that's on the market. I think it's okay to pick some and then revise it a little bit and make a new handling of old tricks, but most of the tricks should be new.
Add another phase or something like that.
So how do you make sure that you don't run into any of the problems that you would run into online? You know, like you're on a short period of time sort of in demand to create a bulk number of tricks. How do you make sure that all of the quality on all the tricks are top notch? Is it just that there's such a massive talented team working on these projects that you can handle these incredible tasks and time delays, or is there a process that you go through to make sure that all of these things are refined enough to be on television, even though the work span or the R&D is like short?
Usually we have at least 2-3 people as the consultants on the team. And the last show that I worked with Troy, we produced over like 90 to 100 effects on his new season. It's crazy. And
wow.
So yeah, there will be time where certain tricks we thought it would work, but you also have to remember, let's say we create 100 tricks, there's at least 30% kill rate. So you got to be prepared that 30% of them or maybe 40% of the trick won't work. Sometimes.
Is that already after you've recorded and filmed and shot them, or is that after you've created them but before choosing to shoot them you've already nixed them because they don't make
both.
it?
Sometimes we try to make sure that all the trick would work, and sometimes we can't really test it unless we actually shoot it because it requires certain condition on the location and lighting and stuff like that. But if we kind of have a good feeling that it won't work, then we will try to kill it, But there are times that we would shoot something, and when they look at it just didn't work, So we just have to kill it and try to come up with another stuff. So yeah, we always on our feet and try to come up with new stuff on the spot all the time, and it's really difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Do you feel more pressure working on someone else's show than working on your own? Are you more motivated when it's someone else's name on the line or another performer who is taking the risks on stage with your tricks?
I think this is almost the same to everybody. I think it's easier to create something for someone else than yourself. I think creating magic for yourself is the hardest thing. And
yeah, it's much easier to like understand somebody else's like character and persona than it is to like reflect
and
on
also
your own.
it's like when you try to design your own logo, you know, it's impossible. Like it takes like my logo, I have like at least 6 versions of it. Like I could never be happy with it because I'm doing it. Sometimes you don't know exactly what you want, but when you work for someone else, you kind of know already what they want, and then you kind of see it from a different perspective. Whereas when you try to do for yourself, you kind of get stuck into this, you know, little small vision that you have. And
that's interesting that helping people can often be more of a educational and more of a like an easier way to be creative than working on your own material.
And it's kind of strange, but it's true. It's like, you know, when you try to give advice when someone just broke up about their love life, you know exactly what to tell them, how to help them.
Yeah, you've got
but when
great
it comes
advice.
to yourself, like you have no idea how to handle the situation. So yeah, I think that's the same thing applies to anything.
When you're working on something with a group of people, how do you overcome conflicts in design principle? So if you want something to look a certain way and they want it to look another way, it has nothing to do with how what the method is, or it's just like, let's say, just the setup of a shot or angle. So what are your tips for working as a team, working together with people?
Is to just kind of look in the bigger picture, you know. Sometimes, and I think there's something different when you're working for someone else, because the ultimate goal is that you're trying to create the best magic for that person that you're working with. So ideally, we are the team. We're not really competing. At the end result is what, you know, we want to be the best. So there are times, you know, there are times that there's a certain method that I think is better, and another person that I'm working with will be, I think my method is better. But that at the end of the day, you can't be too proud of the method. You know, you kind of got to look at the overall picture. Whether does it have a better angle? Is it more practical? Is it faster to reset? Does it look better for camera? You got to weigh all those stuff, and eventually you got to pick the best one. You know, you have someone else help you pick, and you know. Like you can't be sad if your trick just didn't get picked. You know, you at the end of the day you just want the best magic for the show.
So because you're designing magic, you know, for somebody else, and you're also creating a ton of it, what is your approach towards creating magic? Do you sort of work almost forwards and just or sorry, work backwards and decide what you want in the end and then think up methods? Do you sort of think of like a theme and then maybe you think of methods that you know and how they apply to the theme? Or maybe, I mean, sometimes people do it the opposite way. There's a method that's so clever
like, what
that
does
they
this
can
do? What does this actually do?
Frame it.
It's kind of all of those. I think when I work on TV, it actually helps me a lot because you kind of know. So sometimes they would say, okay, we have a location we need to do a magic trick to. It's like a candy shop. We need to do something with candy. So sometimes the producer would kind of give us kind of like a rough idea. Yeah.
It's like a prompt.
So that makes you think, you know, and I think by having a lot of magic background also helps too. I think by watching a lot of TV magic and a lot, you know, just kind of always be on the top of all the magic release on the market. So you kind of know like a lot of what you can mix and combine with different method, and you know, using old principle mixing with new principle.
Again, that goes back to music, right? There's so many bands that are like, this is indie funk, or like, you know, they merge different genres. So being just aware of as much of the art as you can.
And I think that's really important, you know, because I think people nowadays don't really study that much. So a lot of times when they try to create something, it's the same as what's already been out on the market, and there's no really like real source for you to like try to Google out and make sure it's not been done. And the more you can study, that's the better, because you would know already what's on the market and what's not.
It's interesting to me that you said study like the new stuff because a lot of people's advice is to dig back in the old
Go read Tarbell
books
or
and
whatever.
stuff like that. And even at the beginning, you said that you started in magic through videos. So I know, being from this generation, it's very hard. I'm not opposed to videos. I'm for it. I think magic is often visual, and to tie our hands and say that books are better than videos, I think is wrong. But there's definitely a different source of information. Is there a reason why you recommend the new stuff? Do you recommend it more, or do you think that it's all sort of on the same playing field?
No, and when I mentioned new stuff, I actually meant just to kind of be aware of what's out there. Just kind of do research on what people are doing. That way, you're kind of aware of okay, well, this kind of trick has already been done. I think for a creative point of view. But I think as far as studying, I think for people, if video makes you learn faster, makes you learn better, then do it videos. And you would notice newer generation of magicians actually learn a lot quicker than older genre. It's crazy that people are doing cliff shift and when they can learn one day, whereas I was struggling for 2 weeks.
I still can't do it, right? I got the DVD when that first came out. And I
think it's important to, and it doesn't matter whether it's studied or stuff. It's important to know what belongs to what and what the foundation of magic is. As long as they have that background, I think it's fine. A lot of people just.
Have you had any issues with that in terms of you creating a new effect that uses a method that was done 400 years ago, and there's just no way you could have known? I know that happens a lot, where this is my new effect, and you're that's very similar to so and so move, or it's something like that.
Not too much for me. I've never really experienced any big issue, but I have a few friends who have some stuff that's been written on the book for 10, 20 years, and it's hard. Honestly, when things are not online, you don't even know where it is in the book. On the book it doesn't even say what trick or what it is. So I think the best way is just to, at least for me, if I have something new, I would at least try to show to someone who I think would have a good experience or kind of have a good knowledge of magic background, and maybe if they have seen anything similar.
That applies to other art forms as well, I think. With, again, music and also stand-up comedy, it's important for comedians to listen to other comedians because you don't want to be telling the same jokes, right? That's a huge issue in that field. For me, I check on Magic website every day just to keep myself up to date, because I know, let's say I stop looking online for 3 months. I have no idea what's out there, right? And trying to pick it up is hard. I think it's easier just to do a little bit every day so you're not behind. And so that it just helped for me later on. If I want to create something, I know what's already been done, what's not been done. And there's always new ideas coming out, which gives you new ways to approach things. There's certain effects that come out. For example, Arthur. So many people are doing new crazy things with that and coming up with new methods for it. Or not methods, but effects you can do with it.
So I know that you have that series of Valentine's Day videos that comes out that has come out for a few years now, and they're beautiful and they're well choreographed is the word that I think is the most appropriate. How does one go about taking a premise and
so I'll tell you the full story how even the Valentine's video come about. I was dating my ex-girlfriend this is I don't know, maybe 4-5 years ago, and I decided to make a Valentine video for her using a card trick, and it was really, I got my first DSLR camera. It wasn't even I didn't have any good lighting. It's just a camera on a tripod, and I just shot it, and I came up with the trick. And I'm kind of a romantic person, so I like to do something a little bit different, for certain situations. So
I feel like most magicians.
It was. So I just took blank cards and I started drawing. And I was like, oh, it'd be kind of really cool if I could do different color changes and make the animation, the drawing on the card, change to tell a story. And so I did one. And I was like, you know what? I think people might like this. I just put it online. And then for some reason, people just love that videos,
Well, it's so relatable, right? Like, that's sort of like, if I was a magician, I would so do that for my girlfriend. I mean, I am a magician, and I've never done that for a girlfriend. But I mean, from a layman's perspective, they see that, and they're like, that is the most romantic thing I've ever seen, and it's mind-blowing because the magic is so strong in it.
Yeah.
So do you take...
There's a fine line, too, like, it could turn out a little bit too cheesy.
Right.
Or it could be cute.
So do you take, like, a film storyboarding... advanced, like written out approach, or do you sort of like think of an effect and then try to make it videofy?
Yeah, so for the first one that I made, right, it's just really, really simple. Probably the most simple of the entire series. And then I never expect to make a second one. I thought it was just a one-time thing, and people were just like, "Oh, you should make. I'm waiting for the new one this year. Well, like, you're gonna put it out?" And on the very last minute, I think like a week before Valentine, people were just like, "Oh, I can't wait for your new Valentine. Can't wait for new Valentine." So it become kind of like
no, you have to.
Because you're like, I have to do
okay.
this.
I was like, oh god, I have to make something, and I was trying to think of something that is more relatable, So the first one, I obviously every video I want to do better than the other. I always, I always want to try to do something different that could maybe tell a different story, a message that people can relate to. And I did have a long relationship at that time. I thought it would be kind of cool to make some sort of video of me having a date with this girl on Skype because we on a different time zone, and we kind of spent a Valentine together. And so I kind of write a story, create a trick, and film. I think shoot and edit one night before Valentine. It was the hardest thing.
Oh man!
And yeah, I think that one probably got the most view too. It's kind of, now that I'm looking back, it is a little bit cheesy, but it is I don't know, people just really like it a lot. It's
that's also not necessarily the worst thing. Like, sometimes cheesy is what gets you where you gotta go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so every year I'm trying to think, okay, so after the second one is done, I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Third year, people are like, oh, I can't wait. I'm just like, what the heck?
I'm doing it.
Okay, I guess I'm doing another one. So this time I actually give myself a little bit more time. I want to do something different. I really, really want to make this look really good. So I actually wrote a skit, So I don't know if you've seen the one where I was having kind of like a dinner with a girl.
Yes, I have seen that.
It's like interactive. So I'm trying to think, okay, how can I make this so people can kind of participate, kind of enter the journey of this date. It's like, it'd be kind of cool to do like interactive. Like, I don't think I've really seen that many people who have done that. So that interactive videos takes so much time,
How do you feel about interactive magic and what that does in terms of bringing the audience in or making it seem sort of more forced or anything like that? Like, what's your stance on it from the creative standpoint and the standpoint of what it does for the viewer?
Yeah, I mean now that magic, a lot of people actually watch magic on videos. So I think that the reason why recently all the interactive magic videos kind of got viral because people get to actually participate in the magic. A lot of time you just watch magic, right?
Right.
And now I think by adding a little bit of interaction, I think people tend to enjoy. They felt like they actually get to see the magic in person.
Yeah, it's sort of like bringing that in-person thing into the online world, which is a challenge.
But do you also feel like that might take away from the effect itself because it makes it seem self-working? Like, if it's worked for me, it must work for everybody?
Yeah, it does, and I know there's a lot of people who are doing on Facebook right now. I'm not going to mention their names, but people do like it. I can't say that it helps evolve the magic community, but
that might not be who their audience is,
Yeah. So I mean, I know they're targeting for like layman people, which I mean they're really successful, you know?
Yeah, like
I
sometimes,
mean, people,
when you look at those likes and shares on some of the people that are targeting laymen on like Facebook or even YouTube, some of the times there can be a good middle point, you know, like some of the people on YouTube, I wish I knew his name. What is it? Danny Fernandez? I don't know. But he's doing stuff that's like very much for lay people. I think he's just doing magic for like strangers on the street or something like that. But it's framed for lay people, and I think that that's good. But magicians don't watch it and, you know, roll their eyes.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part too. You know, try to impress both magicians and both laymen, and that's something that I actually been trying to do. You know, at least for my Instagram stuff or YouTube stuff. It's really hard.
We have
it's really
different
hard
appreciations for magic, right? Like,
definitely.
Like, they want to be fooled badly in terms of, like... Actually, I take that back. Laymen are fooled badly pretty much regardless of what we do, and they just want it to have an interesting premise or framing or be visually pretty, whereas magicians need to think that the method is super deceptive, right?
Yes.
More deceptive than it would need to be for a layperson.
That's why I try to put a lot of thought and times. And yeah, so back to my Valentine's video. I actually, the third one I did was interactive with different endings. So I know people were kind of expecting like kind of like a cheesy romantic thing. So I want to do a little twist on that. So I want all the endings to actually be kind of funny.
Okay. Cool.
And so it has like all the little twists at the end. So I think people did enjoy that. So on the fourth year, I was like, you know, I want to go on this interactive side of it, which was the hardest video I've ever done in my life. And the idea, which I don't think anybody has done before, was to actually have to institute a guy on the video and have the guy help you to make the magic work for his girlfriend. So it sounds really complicated. It didn't it got a lot of view because I think it requires a lot of preparation and they have to listen and watch me. But I think I'm actually discovering something new here. Yeah. So basically, what happened? It was a little bit
too involved. Is that what you're saying? Like,
it is a little bit. Yeah, I think the reason why I think Facebook video stuff are really successful because they're short. You know, it's something they could follow. They don't have to do a lot of work. Anything that requires a lot of work, they don't want to do it. But I think
that applies to online magic and in-person magic. Like a spelling trick can be way too much for certain audience members.
So on this video, what I did was I was doing an interactive magic trick where I asked them to think of a shape on a screen, and they spell out the name and stuff, blah, blah, blah. They pick the shape. I figured out what shape they're thinking of, and then I take a piece of paper and I magically turn it into an origami of the shape they're thinking of.
Right.
Which happens to be a heart, right? And then I say, this is the one you're thinking of. Let me show you one more thing. I'm going to make this heart disappear. And then I put it to my hand really cleanly, and then it disappears. And I look at the camera and I said, look, the heart is now vanished. Look inside of your purse. And the girl would open their purse and will find inside there's a red origami heart inside of her purse. So I think that's like taking interactive magic to like the next level, I think, for me. Because not only that I read their mind, I make something disappear from the screen that happen physically to them in person. Like I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
And
you're merging two different worlds. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So this video took a lot of planning. I still have like I actually like illustrate all different scenes of different videos that I need to be done, and I write all the scripting. It was so much work. So you script and storyboard the majority of your videos? Yeah. Well, this one mainly because it's really, really complicated. So basically, I have so many videos. So basically, I had the first video that someone would discover. Like, let's say I'm a guy and I found this video, and I say, hey, if you want to help make, you know, your Valentine night really magical, help me become part of this, and then I can ensure you that she would be really amazed. So if you're interested, click on this link. It's like you're offering a service. Yeah. So the guy would click on the link and say, okay, before we started anything, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna actually teach you how to fold an origami heart. So you can choose two options. You can pick a bill or you can pick a red bill. So there's like two different like motion graphic animation shows up, and then they get to pick, okay, which one do I want? Because the only reason for that, because not everybody around the world is going to have a dollar bill, you know, because people live in different countries. So that's why I give like a red heart option. So for me, I have to make two separate choices for every videos. Yeah. So they pick, let's say they pick a dollar bill one. Teach them how to fold it and say, okay, what's going to happen inside of this bill? I want you to write something special that you want to tell your girlfriend. So the guy would write, you know, you're my only one, or I love you, or whatever, something inside. So at the end, as a big revelation, when the girl find out, she realized, oh my God, this is actually from my boyfriend that has been planning all this stuff, and you know, it's just kind of a cute little romantic.
Yeah,
thing.
That's really interesting. Like, that would blow me away. As if it'd be cool if the boyfriend sent it to her like anonymously. Like she just got an email from someone she doesn't know. Like, hey, check out this magician, and then all of a sudden there's something in her purse, and she's losing her mind. Yes,
exactly. So what I tell the guy was that, okay, when the girl's asleep or something, put it inside of her purse somehow without her knowing. Once you've done that, click on this link. It's going to show you a fake, kind of like just a random video of this guy, magician on YouTube that can read your mind. Send this link to the girl and pretend like you've never seen this link, right? So so you would send this link to the person. The person would watch the video, and so it would be a different video. There won't be any tutorial or anything linked to the all the setup prior to this. So yeah,
that is ridiculously clever.
Yeah, so I thought it was cool, you know, to be able to institute someone. And I had people message me and do like, oh my God, my girlfriend was flipping out, you know, thank you so much for having this, you know. And
that's a whole different level of interactive than, you know, put your finger on the screen, you know.
Exactly.
Move left, 1, 2, 3, you know. It's
so because I think, you know, like interactive magic, you can only do so much, you know, because you're not really doing it live. Like, it has to work no matter what. So the trick sometimes is just not that great.
It's cool that you're giving lay people the opportunity to become a magician, essentially, by just saying, here, watch this video and something will happen in your real life.
Yeah. So I think the principle is, I think it's really interesting, you know, by actually asking someone to help you anywhere in the world to do it for you. But the only reason I thought it was good for Valentine, because the guys kind of get a little bit of appreciation from the girl at the end when she opened the heart inside. So she find out. But I think this principle, there's something there. So I'm definitely might explore with it and try to do something different, you know. So it's less of a Valentine thing, and so it's something that could be applied to anybody.
One of the things that I like about it is, you know, one of the ideas when you're doing magic at an in-person event is to make the person who hired you or the head of the company or whoever that is look particularly good, because, you know, if they look good, then they're happy, and then if they're happy, then you're happy. So this is sort of doing that on a much wider scale, where you're saying, like, you know, if every boyfriend if every boyfriend in the world is happy because their girlfriends are happy, then I'm happy, because, you know, like, you're actually giving people something, a tangible, like, win, you know? It's not like they're scrolling through YouTube and they see a video and they're like, hey, and they send it to someone, they're like, hey, this is something that you're allowing them to put in, you know, a marginal amount of effort compared to what you had to put in to get, you know, exactly the same or, you know, better of a result from what it is. So you're sort of offering people this opportunity to look amazing through your opportunity. So I think that pays off very well.
And I think that's important, you know. If you want someone to help you, you want someone... I mean, you don't want to make people look stupid. That's the thing with magic, you know. Obviously, you want people to enjoy it. You got to encourage them to want to do it and want to see your magic. Like, you know, it's all about just having fun with people and making sure, you know, they're having a good time.
That's incredibly interesting that we sort of have come full circle in the talk of making people feel stupid in magic from, you know, the usual conversation, which is about, like, you know, fooling them so bad that they don't feel so good, and all the way now to, like, this interactive, online, positive magic thing that someone can gift to someone else that makes them feel like amazing and positive.
I think one of the reasons why we do magic is because we saw a magician and said, oh my god, how did he do that? I want to do that. And you're giving them that experience of how did he do that, because they still don't know how you made the heart disappear, right? But they're also getting to be part of it and be like, hey, look what I just did, creating this even more amazing moment. Almost becoming a consultant.
But I think there's something interesting there, like I might try to, revisit that idea again and try to make it in a different approach. But then again, I have to think of why that person would want to help me. And obviously, I don't always have to be the magician. There are a lot of times when you do magic to people, you don't even take credit for it. You give the credit to the audience that they did the magic themselves. And I think that's important, not to always be, oh, look, I'm the magician, I can fool you. I think magic could happen to anybody.
I think that's a great place for us to start wrapping up. And what we usually do is go over our final points and then let you have your final points, any final things you want to mention, or things you want to plug. So I'll start with my idea, which is, it's not so much, it's not like a thought that I have that's like, here, think about this. It's something that I'm definitely going to focus more on. Is I haven't really thought about design and framing specific images in my magic as much, which is something I think you focus a lot on when you're creating, is creating like, this is what it's supposed to look like exactly. Whereas where I'm performing, it's more of like, this is the experience I want to give to people, but you create this like very elegant, very sort of like visual, almost perfect looking magic. And that's something I definitely want to look into more, is how to make my effects and my performance style be shaped in a more precise way.
You can kind of look, and there's different ways to think about this too, like there's no right way or wrong way. It's more of like a personal preference. But for me, like just seeing things in a bigger picture and then trying to make it work, I think for me it's easier.
One of the things that I took away from this is I'm like incredibly moved by, your process, both for creating magic for other magicians and, what you're doing online. I mean, I think it's hilarious that you're sort of dragged into the Valentine's Day thing until now it's something that you do. But I'm really excited about the interactive thing. I'm really excited about, getting someone else to benefit. So I'm going to see, on my end, to see what I can do in terms of this podcast. I mean, we're trying to make sure that people can work on their own at their own magic and they'll benefit. And in a similar way, we're almost giving them that little win to benefit from themselves. Do you have any final points or tricks, things, places, locations that you want to plug for people to know?
That we need to know about, anything you're working on?
Well, right now I'm working on a few projects. I'm actually doing kind of like a big lecture tour in Asia, and I'm debuting a lot of my new materials. In the past years, like a lot of my stuff has kind of been really like sleight of hand heavy, like really a lot of card stuff. But I think most of my newer stuff are like worker materials, so something that I actually really enjoy and I do all the time to people, and I get a guarantee reaction. And in the past, I could be honest, some of my color changes or sandwich trick, they're good looking, but do I perform to people all the time? I don't think so. Sometimes I feel like there's better stuff that works better for laymen. So that's why now I think what's important when creating magic is that you gotta weigh the effect versus the method. The effect
practicality.
You don't want to put too much work on a trick that is so crazy hard. Even though it's a cool slide and it's a good way of doing it, you gotta weigh out, do people care? Like that's the main question. Do people care the trick? And so for now, everything I do now, you gotta think about if they would care or not. And one another thing that I want to point out is that I think most of my recent effects that I'm working on are all about giving them something that they could remember you by. So every trick that I do, I do an origami heart trick where I'll take the bill, I'll turn them to a heart between a hand of a guy and a girl, and it magically turns into a heart between their palms, and they can keep the heart. So
that is amazing.
For me,
you're giving them a take home.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have some tricks where I would take a picture of them holding a poker hand, and then later on when I do a trick, the card that they're holding, vanish from the photo on their phone. So for me, it's kind of important to kind of give them something that they could talk about and
really make an impact.
So
where can people find you all over the internet?
You can go to my website, patrickkun.com. I have a lot of products there right now. I'm launching my second edition of my new Mirage playing cards, which is hopefully to come out in July or August. It's going to be really, really good. And
exciting.
Yeah, you can look me up on YouTube and Instagram. Most of my stuff will be posted on Instagram.
Awesome. And what's the Instagram?
Patrick Kun. Yeah, Instagram.com/Patrick Kun.
It's all exactly.
Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. Anyways, thank you so much, Patrick. This was really good, very informative, interesting, and gave us a lot to think about in terms of our presence online in video, and a lot about creating magic and that creative process. So thank you so much. And
thank you so much.
to everybody at home, thank you guys, and we will see you all on the next episode of Discourse in Magic.
Take care, everyone.
Awesome. Bye.
Well, there you go, guys. Thank you so much for grabbing a hold of the listen. That was our interview with Patrick Kun. If you liked what you heard and you have some thoughts on it and you want to participate in the conversation, go to discourseinmagic.com, hit up the comments section, or shoot us an email at discourse@discourseinmagic.com. I'll say that again. That's discourse@discourseinmagic.com.
And if you are checking us out on iTunes or Stitcher or Android podcasting platforms, please give it a high rating and give it some comments, because in the first couple weeks of a podcast being out, there's a section called New and Noteworthy, and we are trying to get in that because that's going to help us reach the most magicians as possible and the most artists as possible and the most people that are interested in what's going on. So give it a subscribe, a high rating, a comment, and next week we will be reading one lucky person from one of the comment sections on one of the podcasting platforms. So leave a comment on any one of them and you might be mentioned next week. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you all on episode 6 of Discourse in Magic.